topic of discussion is going to be an age-old saying, which is "do no harm."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something that I've been working on lately, and it's not age old for me. I'm this many years old when I learned that lesson.
Yeah.
So, do no harm is something that I heard from James at Flow State. I really like the concept of it. I also have a few friends, Joe and Denise, that have a great organization called the New Paradigm of Love, where they really teach everybody to look toward a loving existence on this planet. And in the past, I'll just preface it, I've been very volatile. I was raised in gang-infested neighborhoods, very poor neighborhoods, saw a lot of violence in my day. And it seemingly, as I grew up, I really noticed that or thought as I was watching movies and going through life, that you've got to be tough, you've got to be rough, you've got to be ready to do damage, or you're not really that manly. And what I learned later is that it really all is ego. It boils down to ego. If you cut me off on the freeway, then I go into a rage. The question is, why do I go into that rage?
Right. Triggers,
yes, but why am I triggered by that? So triggers are something else that I've had to work with too. But the question is, why do I go into the rage? The answer to that is ego, because I can't allow you, even though I don't know you and you're in some car I've never seen before, I can't allow you to think that I am a sissy and can be taken advantage of. So that actually boils down to fear. So what I've learned in some of the recent teachings is that everything boils down to either love or fear. Every emotion is rooted in those two things. So when you think about anger, volatility, any of those negative emotions, they're all based in fear that someone might think something of me or think they can do something to me, so I need to show them. So I'm afraid of you thinking that, and I can't allow that to happen, so I need to take action to prove that I am more manly, more this, more that, whatever it might be, but I have to prove that. So I started thinking about that, and I got in quite a few road rage incidents that one ended badly, actually two ended badly. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
And, one, I got in an accident. It was just a bad thing. And then end up having to, pay insurance costs and things of that nature because we two people couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
But then when I listened to James at Flow State, I really kind of took it to heart. I started thinking more and more about just that phrase, do no harm. And as I talked to Joe and Denise at the New Paradigm of Love, I really started to try to embrace it for the reason of my own personal peace. What I found is that I was living in a state of anxiety all the time, where I was worried about money. I was worried about what was going to happen in life. I was worried about what people thought of me. So I was constantly either in a state of anxiety or in a frustrated state of anger, and it was affecting me negatively. I just had no peace. So then it went on to actual self-control. Why is it that you can do something and control my emotions? I never thought about it that way, because we all seem to feel entitled to our anger, and society promotes that. They'll say, you have every right to be angry about about this and that and da-da-da-da-da. You have every right. And then people feel entitled to this anger. But what I didn't like about smoking cigarettes is that cigarettes controlled me.
Yeah.
I didn't have the option because the craving was so strong, and I had to go out and smoke, so I felt. But I don't like that. I hate to feel powerless. And what I started to realize is that you could just say one thing to me and control my emotion.
Oh yeah.
And I had no ability to stop it. And there are certain people out there, like Charlemagne the God. He makes a living out of that. He loves to push people's buttons.
Oh yeah.
Right? And get a rise out of them. And he's really good at staying calm and strategic, while everybody else flips out and loses their stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, there's an art. There's an art to it.
There's an art to pushing buttons. But what I was trying to get to was a more peaceful place, and a place where whether it be my kids doing this or that, like the last topic we talked about with peaceful parenting, they trigger you and then you react violently.
Yeah.
I wanted to get to a point where I can have control of my own emotion.
That's it.
And not allow the outside world, whether it be a bill or someone cutting me off or someone saying something to me or someone saying something about me to someone else.
Oh, yeah.
And then I lose my lid, man. I just start going off and freaking out. What I noticed about that is that I ended up ruining a whole day, and sometimes 2 or 3 days where I would just be stewing on whatever happened.
Yeah.
And no one else was affected by it. Just me.
Yeah.
So I would lose hours, if not days, being angry because somebody triggered me and I didn't have the ability to control myself.
Boom.
So I've taken on a policy now. It's difficult. It's challenging. I'm not good at it yet, but I'm practicing it every day. And whenever something happens, I use a method called stop, challenge, and choose. So before I go into anger or volatility, I stop. And then I challenge the circumstance and say, okay, does this really require me? Not warrant, not entitle, not do I have the right, but does it require me to come out and react to somebody? And do I feel like being angry and getting worked up and feeling that adrenaline and being frustrated for who knows how long?
Yeah.
And the answer is almost always no. I don't want to give up that control, and I want to stay peaceful. So what I've started to do is employ that technique of stop, challenge, and choose, and decide what I really want for my day. Do I want to be angry? Do I want to continue with anger? Or do I want to just take this and say, this was just a circumstance? That person is just doing the best they can. And that's one thing that's helped me with that. Even if a person or people are being rude, I just have determined that they're doing the best they can. They are.
Yeah.
And it may sound a little condescending, but I hope it doesn't, because my point is just to say that they are doing the best they can. They just don't have the communication skills, and they just don't have the control, and they're just trying to make their point. So let me remain in a calm mode. And what that's done for me is it stopped the violent outburst, it stopped the outrage, and it stopped me losing hours and hours and sometimes days.
Oh, yeah. Well, if we compound that over years and you look back and you say, man, I've been triggered by fools for
Right.
20 years on average of once every month or twice every month, that's going to take up days and, weeks of your life.
And other people have gotten so used to it and feel so entitled by it that they do it almost daily. They come home from work every day and talk about their employee, their coworkers or their boss or something like that, and they complain about it every single day.
Yeah.
Or the traffic on the freeway or whatever it is. See, the one thing that I want to point out is that we choose whether or not we suffer.
Yeah, it's all a choice.
It's our choice. Like, you can drive down the freeway. There's going to be 30, 45 minutes of traffic, right? So you can choose to be angry every day, but all you're doing is you're punishing yourself. Like, you're uncomfortable. Everybody else around you, they don't know what you're going through, and they probably don't care.
Right.
But you're punishing yourself by feeling angry and by getting worked up.
Yeah.
So we have the choice to go to Disneyland and have a great time. I've also seen people at Disneyland that are having the worst day ever.
For sure.
But they're at Disneyland,
Yeah.
And it's the same in any situation. You can go to a job, maybe you don't like the job, but it's your choice whether or not you want to dwell on that and suffer all day. It's your choice if you want to let your boss get at you. I get that everybody has their limits, but if we can learn to be more like the wise old man that sits and watches the children play and doesn't allow their tomfoolery to affect his peace, then this world would be a lot better place.
It would. And you would rise above all of the emotional toxicity that comes from being triggered so easily.
Right.
You have to set your standard of what are my triggers.
Right.
And stick to that. But that requires some forethought. It requires some
strategy,
some structure, and some real life design tools that are going to anticipate these situations from happening. You are going to get cut off trying to get onto the freeway at some point. A guy is going to look at your girl a certain way at a bar if you're going out to those environments so often. You know, people are going to offend you, and that's what you are subject to in this life.
Sure.
You know,
and I'll tell you, when I started practicing this, I failed frequently
Yeah.
and miserably. And then I would reel myself back in. I would say, okay, I didn't expect that to happen. Now let me set up that scenario in my head. If this happens again, I'm going to react a different way. There's
Yeah.
3 or 4 choices I have. I can leave the environment. I can react with love.
Yes.
And then people don't expect that. You know, they come at you in a volatile way, and you respond in a peaceful way. They're expecting volatility.
Right.
And then when you don't give them what they want,
Kill them with kindness.
then they don't know which way to go. So I think you hit the nail on the head. You have to strategize. You have to prepare before you go in environments. And sometimes you're just going to fail.
Yeah.
You know, I did really good the other day. I got hit by 3 or 4 things from 3 or 4 different people. A couple of them were my kids. And usually I would react to those immediately, but I stopped myself. And then I continued through the day. I was doing really good. And then my wife did something that triggered me, and I lost it. You know, I didn't lose it in an all-out way. I still held my composure, but I just asked her. I got angry.
Yeah.
I couldn't control it anymore, and I tried to be as productive as possible and ask her not to do these certain things that trigger me. So it worked out decently, but I still failed.
Yeah.
You know, because I made it through almost the whole day. But it's a work in progress, and ultimately what it's resulting in with me is I'm living a more peaceful life. I'm not as angry, and I'm not punishing myself so much with all of this negativity.
So what are the tools, the solutions to that? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that's it. The first thing is to make a decision. You know, just the decision starts the process. And if you think about it, everything in this world starts with one decision, whether it's a skyscraper or Disneyland, the amusement park. It starts with a decision to do something.
Yeah.
And you start with that decision, and then hopefully you can find some mentors. And people say, well, where are the mentors? They're all out there. You can find them on YouTube. You can just type in, you know, peaceful,
Yeah.
being peaceful or not reacting to triggers. You're going to pull up somebody that's going to teach you a little bit about it, or get a book or something like that. But gain a little bit of knowledge, hopefully from an outside source, that'll give you a few tools to work with. And then from there, start practicing them each day. As you make mistakes, don't beat yourself up about it, but try to learn from that mistake, identify what triggered you, think about which ways it could have gone and how it could have gone better, and then try to prepare yourself with that scenario in the future and say, okay, if this happens again, I'm going to react this way. And as you practice it every day, it's just like riding a bike. The first time you rode a bike, you did terribly,
Yeah.
and you failed miserably. But little by little, day by day, you start to get better, and as you practice it, life just becomes so much more peaceful. And believe it or not, you get a lot more happiness out of life. You can enjoy more of life, and you can also be far more productive because you're not stuck in the drama triangle.
Yeah. And awareness that there are multiple options within how you react to a certain situation.
Right.
You know, if someone's coming at you aggressively, you could neutralize them by saying, man, why are you having such a bad day?
Or give
You
them a
know,
compliment.
Or compliment
I've done that
them.
before.
Like,
They come at me with something angry, and I go, I love that shirt. Or, man, your hair is awesome.
Yeah.
And they're thrown off their game a little bit because they expected, you know, a fight. You know, they expected me to come back, and then I show them some kind of love, and they're like, huh.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Or it triggers them even more, right? Because you're being sarcastic.
Well, yeah. If you're being sarcastic, then that's another thing. They're going to feel that, and I'm a strong believer in people feeling energy. So if
Yeah.
you come back sarcastic, then you're just poking a bear.
Yeah.
That's not the way to do it.
Yeah.
That's not the way to do it. But maybe that's a better option than being, either physically or verbally violent.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a first step for some people, but ultimately you want to, no matter what someone does to you, you want to be able to choose your reaction.
Yes.
And I think that's the key, and that's where we take back the power in our life.